This is Sean Morash from Evan and Tiki. You're listening to Locked Up Sports.
The Mets, again yesterday, a listless, boring game. Another loss. Tack another one on. They're 10 games under 500. And listen, they're just missing. They're missing opportunities here. Okay, they came home. They got to get a little momentum going. If they want to make anything out of this season, anything at all, they got to beat teams like the Marlins, right? The Marlins are a bad team. They're 13 or 15 games under 500, something like that. The Mets are 10 games now under. The Mets are just a bad team. They look like a bad team. They have all the earmarks of a bad team. They when they hit, they can't pitch. When they pitch, they can't hit. They have a bad bullpen. Their starting pitching is shaky. That's all representatives of a bad team. And you can see it. Now, if you want to look at any kind of, good in this season, they have a chance to kind of maybe give you a little bit of a season over the next 35 games. Yesterday was a stretch that they start a 35-game span where they play. Every team they play is under 500 except the Yankees. And they have, what do they have? They have 2 games against the Yankees in that stretch. They got the Marlins, the Padres, the Rangers, the Cubs, the Astros, Nationals, Pirates, Nationals again, Rockies, and Marlins again. Most of those teams are real bad teams. So if you want to think on the positive side for this Mets team, maybe they play well and they start beating bad teams. But those teams that I just listed are looking at the Mets on their schedule and saying, okay, we got a bad team. They don't do anything right. They got Alvarez back last night. He made a big error in the 9th inning. Threw the ball into center field. Vientos got a nice hit yesterday, and then he made an error that let the winning run score. It's just they can't do anything right. They can't get out of their own way. Again, you had Alonso an 0 for 4 last night. And look, put that game up against the game that Judge had last night. Alonso came up in a couple big spots, right? The Mets could have used a hit a couple times, and he just couldn't get the hit. I mean, you had the starting pitching. You had McGill, who pitched. McGill did not pitch great. But he pitched all right. He pitched good enough to win, right? You gave up 2 runs. You had the Marlins were hustling. They were taking extra bases. They were stealing. They were running. They were hitting, running. The Mets just look like they're dead out there. Vientos got a nice hit. He see a 2 RBI double. Gave the Mets the lead right in the 2nd inning after they had given up a run in the 1st. And you thought, okay, maybe we get going here. But then in the 5th, they gave it right back on a ball out in deep center field that's got to be caught. This is the major leagues. This ball has got to be caught out in center field, whether it's Nimmo. Now, it's the center fielder's ball. But it's Nimmo coming together with Bader, and neither of them call it. They almost run into each other. I mean, what are you doing out there? It's the major leagues, and in the major leagues, that ball's got to be caught. There's no excuse for that. That's a deep fly ball in front of the track, and then you have the Marlins just hustling around the bases, taking extra bases at every chance they could get. The Mets not doing that. They're just listless. They are boring to watch, and they are a bad baseball team. And yeah, you could look at these next 35 games as, okay, we got a chance because we're playing bad teams. But like I said, those teams are looking at the Mets saying, we got a chance to pick up a couple wins in that series because they were playing a bad team. They can't win at home. The Mets are just horrendous at Citi Field this year, which it makes it even worse. You wonder why people aren't coming out to the ballpark. It's because they stink. And they stink at home. So they're losing all these games at home. They're not making plays. They're making errors all over the place. The ball in center field's got to be caught. Vientos makes a nice backhand diving stop on a play. And then he gets to his feet. He has time, and he throws wide at first, and the run scores. And that gave the Marlins the lead. They never relinquished it. It was 3-2 going into the 9th. Alvarez threw one into center field, a sac fly. It's 4-2, and the game's over. And it's just night after night after night with this team. They'll put together, 2 wins or 3 wins. They're a bad team. Every earmark of a bad team. That's why I was looking at the schedule, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe they'll be all right. Maybe they can pick up some wins, gain some momentum, give us maybe at least to July. But I don't even think we're going to get that much. And I know in baseball, it's kind of when you're losing and you're not hitting, it looks like you're not hustling. But that's kind of what it looks like. It looks like this team is just not hustling and not playing well. And these other teams, the Marlins are a bad team. The Marlins are going nowhere. They're worse than the Mets. They're a bottom feeder in the entire MLB. And they can even hustle, take extra bases. That first to third on that play that with Vientos made the play, threw across to Alonso, and then the runner took third base from first that's a hustle heads up play. The Mets never make that play. And then it just compounds itself with the play in the field. So as far as these 35 games go, and okay, we got a bunch of bad teams, and yeah, they do. They're playing a bunch of bad teams, and they usually play well against the Yankees. You expect them to probably split that series. The Pirates are good. The Pirates look like they're better. They got real young, good starting pitching that is really exciting that whole fan base. The Rockies played all right earlier in the season. They've fallen off mightily, almost 20 games under 500 now. The Nationals seem to always have the Mets number. The Astros are a better team than the Mets. The Cubs are a better team than the Mets. So most of these teams, and people are making a big deal of this 35-game stretch, with a lot of big homestand. And who cares that they're home? Because the Mets don't win at home. At this point, you'd rather them be on the road. And I don't want to hear that they're 5 games out of the wild card, because that's what they are. If I was running a marathon, at some point in that marathon, I was only 10 seconds out of the lead. Does it mean I was ever in it? No, of course not. I wasn't catching the Kenyan. But at some point, when the race started, at some point I was only 10 seconds out of the lead. But I was never in it. That's what the Mets are. They're not in it. They've never been in it. They started 0-6. Then they had a little nice run. And since then, it's just been horrendous. It's been more bad than good. You thought maybe you get a little pie. You're going to have to wait for Alvarez. Alvarez is going to have to get back into this. He's going to have to start hitting immediately. They sent down Tomas Nido. So his 12-year tenure with the Mets, I mean, it's over. They're not going to be hanging his number anytime soon. He was an automatic out for 10 years. He was okay as far defensively as a backup, but he was an automatic out. He provided nothing to this lineup. David Peterson pitching today. He's 1-0. They got him back. He pitched okay in his first game back, but he's only pitched 11 innings this season. He's got a 3 ERA. So you really can't even look at the numbers, because the numbers are, it's an 11 inning sample. McGill, okay yesterday. McGill pitched okay yesterday, but when you have guys like when you're counting on McGill and Peterson, you're not going anywhere. So for all listen, I'm as big a Mets fan as there is, but if you're going to be real with yourself, instead of just waving the pom poms, this team is going nowhere. They can't get out of their own way. They're losing to the Marlins. They almost lost that game to the Phillies the other day in London. They probably should have, if it wasn't for a swinging bunt and a great play by the catcher to do that, to get that double play. They lose that game too. And it's just another blown game for the bullpen. And that's the problem, because even when the Mets have a decent game and they score some runs and they have a lead, the bullpen blows it up. And there's nothing more demoralizing than a bad bullpen, because the losses are crushing. You're up in the 7th or 8th inning and you give up a 4-run inning. Or you're up in the 9th and your closer blows it. Haven't heard from Diaz yet. Where's Senga? Senga was supposed to be 4 to 6 weeks. It's now looking like 4 to 6 months. Classic Mets. That's a classic Met injury right there. Oh, he's just got some tightness. We're gonna hold him off in the beginning of the season. He'll be back 4 to 6 weeks. He'll be back by May. Well, now we're getting close to July, which I told you when it happened in March that you're not going to see him until July. And now at this point, I mean, do you even bring him back? And there's going to be a big sell-off coming. A big sell-off coming around the trade deadline for this team. They're gonna get rid of Alonso's gonna go. McNeil's gonna go. Nimmo might go. Everybody I would imagine except probably Alvarez and Lindor because of the contract is gonna stay. I mean, he's gonna go. Everyone except Lindor and Alvarez is probably gonna go, and I bet they shop Lindor too. Because Steve Cohen now has a history of doing that. Listen, I'll pay a set. Get him off my hands. I'll pay his salary. I just don't want to hear. I don't want to see him anymore. Did you ever think that we'd be getting the billions and billions of dollars from Steve Cohen, the owner we always dreamed of? And instead of paying a big salary for our own team, he's paying everybody else's salary, fixing the mistakes he made. And his Stearns, this thing is now ripe for Stearns to tear it all down. And you know that's what he wants to do. You know Stearns is just itching to tear the whole thing down, blow it up, and start over. And right now, there's really not much of an argument against that. So when he comes to Steve Cohen around the middle of July, mid to late July, and says, I want to blow this whole thing up, I want to get rid of everybody and start over, let me do my thing, Steve Cohen doesn't really have an argument against that. And he's going to end up paying all these players' salaries again. And I'll tell you what, when they do trade Alonso, you're going to be pissed off at what you get back. Because he's going to be a rental. He's not having a great season. He's going to be a rental for 2 months for a team. And you're going to get back 2 to 3 mid to lower level minor leaguers. And the Mets fans are going to have a fit over it because they're going to give away their big home run hitter and their big star and the face of the franchise for 3 minor leaguers. And that's just the reality of the situation. The Mets are no good. It's not working. The core is not working. I have no idea what happened to McNeil. I mean, how a batting champion just a few years ago looked like the next perennial 300 hitter for this team. And he had just fallen off a cliff. Lindor is playing okay. I said Lindor will probably play up to the back of his baseball card. He always has slow starts, and he did again this year. But to have this happen, and you knew it was going to be probably not a great year. You know, we were hoping maybe the Arizona Diamondbacks of last year, we could be that. In reality, we knew it wasn't going to be that, right? We knew it was going to be a rough year. This is worse than we thought because now the team just looks listless. We still haven't hit the first day of summer. And here we are, and the Yankees on the other side just keep winning. They won again last night. They win, they are soaring in the American League. One of the best teams, if not the best team in the American League. And the Mets are just, treading water and sinking at the same time. They'll tread water for a week. They'll keep their head above water, and then they sink for 2 weeks. And that's how you drowned. And the bad bullpen is what started it. And like I said, when they hit, they don't pitch. When they pitch, they don't hit. They blow leads late. They make errors in the field. They make that play out in center field. This isn't high school. This is a major league team. This is a major league game. That ball's got to be caught. They both had time to get there. Somebody's got to call somebody off. Theoretically, it's the center fielder's ball. Forget about the division was lost in the first week. The wild card was lost about a month later. And like I said, they're not in it. 5 games out is not in it when you have 10 teams in front of you. And most of the teams in front of you are the teams on the list in the next 35 games. So again, you could look at it like, those are the teams we got to play, right? Those are the guys we got to pass. Let's play. We're playing them good. No. You think they're going to win a bunch of games against the Padres, the Cubs, the Astros, the Pirates, who have star pitching? That Skeen kid is he's the real deal. You're not, this Mets lineup ain't touching him. And that's going to bring you right up to around the All-Star break, right past the All-Star break. A week, but those 35 games will bring you right up to a week before the trade deadline. And that's when it's just that week right there, probably during the Rockies or Marlins series, is going to be when the Mets start unloading everybody. And then you're going to have a bare bones, nothing, young team for August and September. And they're going to lose, and they're going to look bad because they're young and they're inexperienced. And I don't know if you're getting those kids that Acuna and all them down on and I don't know if you're getting them up here this year. You might see them in September for when they expand the rosters. But it's another lost year. And last night was a perfect example. They coming home, a chance to maybe put together a couple wins against a bad Marlins team, and they were out hustled. They were out. Baseball plays. The Marlins had better baseball IQ last night, taking extra bases on the Mets. The Mets looked lazy. The big hitters like Alonso did nothing. Vientos looks like he could hit a little bit, but he's shaky in the field. He's not going to be the future of third base. McNeil can't hit. And they got a decent starting pitching performance from McGill last night. Peterson tonight against the Marlins. Let's see if they can come out. Let's see if they do anything tonight. Get a win. You got to win these series. They can't win at home. And the fact that they can't win at home, nobody's coming to the ballpark. It's already a ghost town at Citi Field. The Mets are averaging 6,000 to 7,000 less per game than they were last year. And last year was not a very good team. By this point last year, the season had fallen apart. Remember? It was in May that the season fell apart. So by this time last year, we were already almost in the same position that they're in now, with the season falling apart. And they had the big stars, and the Mets are drawing 6,000 to 7,000 less a game this year than they were last year. And it's not going to get better. I know they drew 30,000 last homestand. They averaged 30,000, I think, 3 or 4 games in a row. But they had giveaways and they had fireworks. That's another sign of a bad team. When the people are showing up for giveaways and fireworks and not anything else, you have a bad product. Steve Cohen's not dumb. He sees it. Be prepared, people. They're gonna tear it down. They're gonna blow it up. Stearns is itching to get his hands on this team and tear the whole thing down and start over. The manager, I don't know if the manager even survives this year. We'll see. It's another disaster in Flushing, and another year come and gone for the Mets, and it's not even the first day of summer yet. It's going to be a long couple months, folks. Hopefully, Aaron Rodgers decides to show up, because we're going to have to be talking Jets in a little while. Then the Giants, another year with their quarterback Daniel Jones. Not exactly the best New York sport. The best of New York sports is our winter sports, and they came and gone. Those playoffs have come and gone, and now we're stuck with the Mets and the Yankees, and it's going to be all Yankees coming up too, because the Mets there's not going to be nothing to talk about with the Mets. These 35 games, I'd be surprised if they win 20 of them, 23 of them. I'd be surprised. You want to get yourself back in it, you're going to have to win 25 of the 35, because that's how many teams you got in front of you in this wild card. Don't look at the games back. Look at the teams in front of you. There's 8 or 9 teams in front of you. It's not happening. Another year come and gone with a bad baseball team in Flushing and the Yankees flourishing in the Bronx. Mets, Marlins tonight, 7:10, Citi Field. There's plenty of seats if you want to head out there. I'm Bob Walters. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.